Who was God before creating the universe? This is one of the deepest and most intriguing questions that has ever been asked by mankind. Even scientists are confused about this. They say that the universe came from a singularity, but what's inside of it, or who's inside of it? No one knows. However, according to the Holy Bible, we have the answer. It is written in the book of John, chapter 1, verse 14. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. This is saying that there was a time when God wasn't alone. There was another God or a being that we would refer to as the Word, which means there was a conversation between these two. So they converse and decide to create this world that we're living in right now. But why did they do that? We don't know. But one day you will get the answer to that question. However, I believe that their conversation took place inside of the void. You see, the Holy Bible says that God created everything from nothing. It didn't come from something already existing. It came from absolutely nothing. And if there was nothing, how could these two gods be in the beginning? The only way that this makes sense is if they were inside of something that already existed, which means that before creation, God was inside of a void, which is basically an empty space that has no dimensions. It has no up, down, left, or right. It has no width, length, or height. It's just an infinite space where nothing exists. I believe that God was hanging out in an infinite void, waiting for his Son to come so he could create the universe. But then again, there is another scripture that says that God created the universe out of nothing. It says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." Now, some people say that the earth was already there, but the Holy Bible says that it was a formless void. This simply means that it was an empty space, which leads me to believe that the earth wasn't the earth. It was something else. It was the void. So what I'm trying to say is that God created the void. Because when he created the universe, he created everything. He created space and time. So time started ticking and the universe began to expand. And after the universe expanded enough, God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And he separated the light from the darkness. And God called the light day and the darkness night. And there was evening and there was morning the first day. Now some people try to argue with this, saying that light couldn't have been created from nothing. And you know what? They're right. However, keep in mind that God created everything in the universe from nothing. He created stars and galaxies and planets and satellites, even elementary particles like quarks and electrons and neutrinos. And all of that came from nothing. So if God could create all that from nothing, why could he not create light from nothing? Well, I guess not everything has to make sense to us. Sometimes we need to have faith. So at the end of the day, we still don't know who God was before creation, but we do know that he was inside of a void with his Son, the Word, who later became Jesus Christ. And I believe that they created everything out of nothing because they wanted to. Because if God could not create the universe, then he wouldn't be the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of the Bible. By the way, if you want to know who was the first person that ever lived on earth, then click here.